Good morning, everybody. I see my mother and a couple of Steves. We're off to a pretty decent start. Here we go. Okay, sorry about that. I may let the sounder go a little long because Crackshot made a comment and I wanted to grab an article for it. Rumor only. But good morning, everyone. So it's just me again. I mentioned yesterday that our intrepid co-host is, well, he's busy as a squirrel trying to shit a pineapple because the nature of his job and the fact that it's Thanksgiving week, with some other factors, the boy is just loaded up. So he'll be with us tomorrow morning for our Thanksgiving morning show, and that'll be good to see him back on the show then. So this morning, go ahead and say good morning to some people. I already mentioned in the pre-roll. I see Ma with First Blood. My mother with First Blood. Good morning. A couple of Steves. Good morning, gentlemen. Crackshot's with us. Hell yeah. Your Majesty. I see you there on Twitch. The Fit Life with Danielle. Good to see you this morning, Danny. Love you, honey. And Scrimshaw Rose. Good morning, sunshine. And I see GCM is with us this morning, too. My man. Ooh, Sergeant Major, there you are, pulling double duty, watching on Facebook and Twitch. That's only Facebook and Twitch, though. Maybe we need to put another TV in your living room there, old man. So yeah, the old man's got two TVs in the living room, so we can watch football and fishing at the same time. That, my boys, is what retirement should look like. So, here's what I want to talk about this morning. Let's have a little fun. In fact, more to the point, let's have a little Schadenfreude. So, there's an article that I want to take a look at, and actually, Cameron sent this article to me. Oh, Ma says I'm on YouTube on the big TV. They're just not commenting there. I appreciate it, guys. That's pumping them numbers up. I see what you're doing. So you got your phones out watching on Facebook so you can make comments. Yep. I have the best parents. You talk about support. Hell yeah. So we're going to talk about Disney this morning. Cameron sent this article, and he had wanted to be able to have a conversation about this on air as well. But he's not available this morning, obviously. So a thing happened. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to read the article. We're going to do a little analysis and a little bit of, shall we say, not so speculative speculation. Bob Iger returns as Disney CEO, replacing Bob Chapek after a brief, tumultuous tenure. Now, I'm going to make some assertions about the results of the Chapek tenure, but it is important to note that many of the things that are wrong with Disney right now started with Iger at the helm, but the direction of the company has not been good recently. So Bob Iger's back. Disney, in a shocking late Sunday announcement, said it had reappointed Iger as chief executive, effective immediately after Iger's hand-picked successor, CEO Bob Chapek, came under fire for his management of the entertainment giant. Now, when we say came under fire for his management of the entertainment giant, it is important to note that Disney stock has been down steadily for a while. So Iger said, "It is with an incredible sense of gratitude and humility, and I must admit a bit of amazement, that I write to you this evening with the news that I am returning to the Walt Disney Company as Chief Executive Officer." So the dramatic upheaval comes 11 months after Iger left Disney and days after Chapek said he planned to cut costs at the company, which had been burdened by swelling costs at its streaming service, Disney Plus. Earlier this month, the company's earnings vastly, great word, vastly underperformed Wall Street's expectations, even if its theme park business, which reported a surge in revenue, delivered less than what analysts had projected. Good morning, dear. Morning. Now, and Sergeant Major points out, I was just about to mention that, they actually saw their stock, shares of Disney closed up a little over 6% on Monday as a result of the announcement. So what that tells me is that the speculators see this as a very good move. The speculators were definitely looking at the direction of the company and saying, this is not going well. But let's talk about what's not going well, right? There were reasonable excuses to be made as a result of the pandemic that, well, the parks were closed. People weren't spending money at Disney. But during that entire period, they still had their films. They still had their streaming service running. All the swag, all the merchandising, and all of that. Okay. But during that period, with the parks closed, okay, I could see how you lose money. Those parks generate an incredible amount of revenue. But Disney went woke. That's what really happened. Disney went woke and has been going broke as a result. That's why they're talking about cutting costs. That's why they're announcing losses. And Disney has had some real stinkers over the last several years. Let's not forget, in the midst of the Wuhan virus outbreak, Disney went out of its way to bend the knee and shoot Mulan in China. And there were some fantastic memes about how you could see the Uyghur Muslim concentration camps in the background of the Mulan movie. That's a meme. That's not actually the case, but given the location, it's probably technically correct. They filmed Wuhan in a part of China where it's hard to point a camera in any given direction without pointing it at a Uyghur Muslim concentration camp. Now, that's not the only concession that Disney has made to China, of course. There have been several others. And any company making concessions to China at present is well, like I said yesterday, there are no good Democrat voters because you cannot vote Democrat without actively supporting child brides, child mutilation, and abortion. So similarly, you cannot actively support China. You cannot make political overtures on China's behalf without supporting the organ harvesting of the Falun Gong and the Uyghur Muslims. Now, all that said, it's not just Disney's support of China. There has been a dramatic increase in Disney's product of the insertion of certain activities. We talked about this a bit. I'm going to play this. I hate having to play this clip, but given the topic, we have to go back to it over and over and over again. Because there is a war on for the minds and the hearts of your children.
Let's have these two characters kiss. Let's, in the background, like, I was just, wherever I could, just basically adding queerness to, like, if you see it.
It's an active part of the company's agenda, right? That's from a Zoom meeting of the board at Disney, explicitly stating we're going out of our way to, quote unquote, inject queerness wherever it can be done. Right? There's an upcoming, I think it just came out, Disney movie, and I forgot the name of it, but it's basically a gay boy love story presented as, sort of a male princess film. It's like Otherland or something like that, some mystical land type of story, and it centers around a homosexual teenager and his love interest. We're not going to be watching that here. I don't need to be having that conversation with my prepubescent children, right? And that's been a big part of the entire conversation. Now, in one of the places that Disney went entirely wrong, let me see if I've got, yeah. So this article is from back in April of this year, right? April 22nd, 2022. Disney stock lost nearly $50 billion in value since the start of March when it took a political gamble to oppose Florida's controversial new education law. Now, Disney stock is already extremely valuable. It's a very high value investment. But in around a month of get woke and go broke, the 8.5% loss, right? Disney stock was down more than 2% on Friday and by more than 8.5% over the past few days as Florida lawmakers work to punish the company for wading into the state's politics. The stock's market cap has declined by about $46.6 billion since March 1st, just days before the company came out against the legislation. So this was the Don't Say Gay bill. We've talked about this many, many times on the show before, the parental rights and education bill in Florida, which had the unmitigated temerity to assert that you should not discuss in public or government-funded schools with children who have not yet passed the 4th grade sex, sexuality, or more specifically, sexual activity in pornographic novelizations in public schools, right? That's the controversy. That's the thing that Disney is against, right? They came out against a law that says you don't get to talk to 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8-year-olds about sex generally. It doesn't even explicitly say you can't talk about alternative sexual orientations or any other various perversions. It says sex. You don't get to talk to children about how mommy and daddy make babies before they're 8 or 9 years old. That's the thing that the lefties got all pissed off about. All right, we didn't even go so far as to say, I don't want you talking to my 16, 17, 18-year-old kids who are juniors and seniors in high school about it. Under this law, that's still perfectly on the table. Now, as a teacher, especially a public teacher, a government-funded teacher, you still have no business talking to my children about sex outside of a sex ed class that I've signed a release form for. But when you're talking about the morality of sexuality and sex, that is a topic for the home, for the parents. That is a conversation that you have with your children. There's a reason we talk about having the talk. We talk about the birds and the bees. Because it is not the job, it is not the purview, it is not within the reasonably expected authority of a government or its agents to instruct my children or anyone's children in their moral activity. And it is certainly not reasonably within their purview to enforce a political ideology in that arena, and definitely not to encourage, which is the activity that is ongoing, as evidenced by, if nothing more, than the social contagion that is gender identity politics and the 25% increase in the number of children identifying as some sort of LGBTQ. That is not the place of the government. In fact, I would go so far as to say that under the 10th Amendment and the 14th Amendment, it is an authority and a power that is explicitly forbidden from the government because it is not one which is explicitly enumerated to them by the Constitution or any of its therewith amendments. So all that said, let's take a look at where Disney has made some errors and where some corrections can be achieved. Like, for example, Lightyear bombs at the box office, proving to Disney that parents don't want propaganda, right? So what we're actually seeing here with the replacement of Chapek by Iger is that Disney is basically, they're being forced to listen to you. Disney is having to make changes because it is starting to learn that its agenda of active racism and vulgar promotion of perversion and gender ideology are not what their audience wants. Just not. Funny thing about the Democrat Party that focuses so much attention on minorities, that goes so far as to put a brown and black stripe on the gay pride flag, making the political statement that being black or Mexican or Latino or basically anything other than white is existentially identical to being gay, trans, non-binary, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Being black is the same as being trans. Politically, that's the statement that they're making. But the fact is, as we learn more and more going forward with some of these polls and this data, Latinos are overwhelmingly Catholic and religious. Black men are not big fans of the LGBT agenda. They're just not. Gay black men speak often and loudly about it being much, much more difficult to be gay and black than to be gay and white, because black men just aren't as progressive on the whole sexuality thing as these white limousine liberals and champagne socialists that are working in places like the Disney boardroom and injecting queerness wherever they can get away with it. Disney is having to respond to that because they're learning now, and have been slow to learn the lesson, that getting woke means going broke. Which means you guys out there are doing something right. And that something right, by and large, is not watching She-Hulk, not going to see the new Star Wars movie because they can't get a Star Wars movie right.
Refusing to involve yourselves in tokenism?
Say again, dear?
Refusing to involve yourselves in tokenism?
Exactly.
I don't need one black friend. I just need friends.
Yeah, I've got plenty of black friends.
I have plenty of friends. I think I have plenty of friends.
My black friends mostly wear red hats.
I just have friends.
And Crackshot, you made a comment about Kathleen Kennedy. So this is actually an article from yesterday. After 10 years in the position, Kathleen Kennedy's reign at Lucasfilm is rumored to be coming to an end in 2023. Kathleen Kennedy has been president of Lucasfilm since 2012 when George Lucas sold his company to Disney for $4.05 billion during her time as president. Lucasfilm has produced 5 live-action Star Wars films and began a new television era for the galaxy far, far away on Disney Plus. And the only thing to come out of that was even tolerable was The Mandalorian. Now, The Mandalorian was excellent. You know what The Mandalorian was? It was a Western space opera drama about a single daddy and his adorable little frog boy. And it was excellent because the story focused on something real. A parent having to struggle to raise a child. And, quite amusingly, looking at the people watching right now who've commented, I know that most of you have children, and you'll appreciate that the shenanigans, the mischief of a single toddler can be an absolute nightmare of stress-inducing activity. They're little suicide machines. The hardest thing you will do as a parent is just until they're about 4 or 5. And sometimes even older, just to keep them alive. Not in a dangerous world, but rather in a world that they continue to make extra danger in. They climb onto high things, they put things into things where they don't belong, they run off. You put the child safety lock things on the doors because as soon as they can reach that doorknob, they'll just run away. And that doesn't go well for you. Oh, sorry, the squeaky pen. But this article about Kathleen Kennedy is rumor and speculation, but it's rumor and speculation that is substantiable. We saw with the third Star Wars trilogy that came out from Disney, beginning with what was the first one? Anyway, the Star Wars trilogy was this whole the Force is female thing with the Mary Sue that just it's not like she went and sought out the hermit in the swamp on Dagobah. Somebody handed her a lightsaber and all of a sudden she was the next Luke Skywalker. What you call a Mary Sue story. And in fairness, it was a wonderful homage, wonderful metaphor for things like, thank you, Crackshot, it was The Force Awakens. Things like a woman's right to vote. Women acquired the right to vote without acquiring any of the therewith related responsibilities. Just like Luke had to go to Dagobah and work and struggle and find the magic hermit in the woods and train and lift the rocks and do all that stuff in order to acquire the power of being a Jedi. Well, women got the right to vote without signing up for the draft or the bucket brigade or being subjected to certain levels of taxation. They did not assume any new responsibilities. In fact, when the suffrage movement first surfaced, most women opposed the suffrage movement because they thought that the right to vote, which is a power and an authority, came with responsibilities like the draft and the bucket brigade, etc. And it turns out, oh no, If you're a victim class and cast that way by the radical left that seeks to convert you from loving mothers and homemakers into drudgery-ridden wage slaves, then no responsibility required. You can have it for free. You don't have to pay for it. Oh no, those old men over there, they have to pay for the right to vote. They have to earn it. But you just have what you want. It's cake. Enjoy. And the story that we get with The Force Awakens is the same story. No work, no effort, no struggle, no price. Just nearly unlimited power. And now let's tell your story about how women are exactly the same as men, and they can do exactly the same things that men can do. But they don't have to do all the things that suck. Right? That's why you're constantly hearing about, oh well, men occupy all the boardrooms. They're all the CEOs. There's almost no female CEOs. Okay, fair. There's a lot more men that work their asses off and put in the 80, 90 hours a week to climb that corporate ladder and get to that high-end position. Hey, why are we bitching about the number of female sewer workers that there aren't? Why are we trying to equalize the number of female plumbers or brick masons? It's because you're feminist activists like Kathleen Kennedy. They don't believe in equality. They don't believe in equal rights. They believe in taking by force without paying the price of the goods and services. They believe in the free ride because, having not been mothers and homemakers themselves, they don't understand that is also a job, that involves sacrifice and work and cost. That you don't just get the free ride where you sit at home and eat bonbons and watch daytime television while daddy goes and works his ass off to make a buck. That's not what that relationship is about. That's not what a traditional marriage is about. It's about there's work to be done at home, there's work to be done in the world. One of us can do either. And the basic caveman logic is you don't send the boobies out of the cave to hunt the mammoth because somebody has to hang out and feed the kids, and I'm not equipped. That's why I have to go out and stick my head in the lion's mouth to cut his throat and bring back some steaks. Because mama's got to be fed. They work. They earn the privilege of someone else doing the work that's needed to get the food into the house while they maintain the security and the integrity of the home. But the feminist doesn't understand that. That's why they are cancer. Now, I want to close this morning. I've got one more article that I want to take a look at. This one's from last week, but I just came across my radar this morning, and it happens to be appropriate to the conversation that we're just having about feminism. More celebrities pile on Candace Cameron Bure for traditional marriage comment while daughter defends her. I actually don't know who this person is. But, hey, Cade, good morning, sunshine. I love you, brother. And boobies, birthing parent, you sexist bigot. Yeah, sure. I am a terribly sexist bigot. Quite simply, the case is this. I like boobies. It is what it is, guys. Boobies have saved me a fortune in feeding 4 children. Several celebrities and a GLAAD spokesperson are criticizing Candace Cameron Bure for her recent comments on traditional marriage, while her daughter Natasha came to defend her defense. Bure caused an uproar earlier this week following an interview with the Wall Street Journal about switching from the Hallmark Channel to Great American Family. The 46-year-old actress discussed how GAF, that's Great American Family, is a better fit for her professionally. My heart wants to tell stories that have more meaning and purpose and depth behind them, Bure told WSJ. I knew that the people behind Great American Family were Christians that loved the Lord and wanted to promote faith programming and good family entertainment. The comic got everyone talking, dealt with Burr's take on which storylines will feature on GAF. When asked if there would be any LGBTQ storylines on those projects, she replied, "I think that Great American Family will keep traditional marriage at the core." There are several problems with Obergefell. Many of those problems are the legal nature of the court assuming authority, which is explicitly reserved from it in passing law from the bench. Obergefell was not the repeal of an existing law. It was the creation of an affirmative piece of legislative authority. It was an absolute usurpation of legal authority that the court has no right or authority to assume. Morally, the problem with Obergefell and gay marriage and the current legislation before the Senate, with 12 Republicans signing on to codify not just gay marriage, but just willy-nilly marry what you wanna, in what they're calling the what is it? The defensive? It's not the defensive. It's the Marriage Restoration Act or something like that. And it's gay marriage in law, currently before the Senate. Here's the problem. The only legitimate interest that the government can have in marriage is to incentivize the affirmative production of progeny for the purpose of sustaining and expanding the citizenry. We are at, and have been for some time in the United States, below replacement levels of reproduction. We're not having enough babies. Now, when I say we, I mean most of the other people out there, because we got 4. And my man, I tell you what, if you don't have 2 children is tough. Once you get to 3, the little bastards outnumber you. And that's hard work. They're sneaky. They're fast. And if you happen to be me, they're unbelievably large. My 12-year-old daughter is 6 feet tall. Yeah. But the only legitimate interest that the state can have in marriage is to incentivize the production of more citizens. The question of things like, oh, well, what if I die and I want to leave my money to my partner? That's called a voluntary contract. Write one. There's nothing in the law preventing you from creating such a contract, such a will. You being married or being related are not the only ways to create a perpetuating wealth plan that transfers your property to a designee. You can do that with a lot of different mechanisms. Making that argument for the reason to go after marriage is a lie. It's an excuse, because marriage is the thing that you're seeking to destroy. We know this because there is a way to do the thing you want to do under the law even before Obergefell. That has existed since the founding of the country. Business partner, insurance policy, will, trust, totally doable. The whole civil union thing is a joke. Calling it a marriage is intended to offend what it is to be married. It is like everything else that is done by the radical authoritarian left. They never want anything. that doesn't come with the added benefit of causing harm to the opposition. Nothing a Democrat ever seeks to do, and this is true of all radical left-wing authoritarian regimes, is ever done without the added calculus of identifying and creating a victim. Ever. That's the point. So, let me read over some of these comments real quick. My wife says, in such a case, a marriage of convenience would be considered a mockery as well. I agree. Cade says, because equality is never the goal. Correct. Yesterday, we talked about the leveling process. That's what the whole equality of opportunity, what they now call equity, is all about. The leveling process. It is deeply important to the radical leftist authoritarian agenda that everybody be the same. The end goal is a three-tier society where you have the elite ruling class that has all of the wealth. You have, at the bottom of that, the peasant slave class that lives in the pods and eats the bugs. And in between the two, there's a place where you can enjoy some of the benefits of the privileged class and leave some of the austerity and poverty of the slave class. But you can never actually advance into the elite class. And that class in the middle of the two is called the police. You'll have the authority, the enforcement mechanism, and the bottom 95% will be the global slave class. That's the objective. That's the objective behind every one of those agendas. The green agenda, the vegan agenda, the LGBT, all of it is about a leveling process where you eliminate the differences, the perceived differences between people, while exacerbating artificial, meaningless differences between people, creating endless infighting and out-group warfare to completely eliminate the availability of prosperity to the masses. That is the agenda. Parents are calling Disney on their bullshit. They're starting to wake up to that agenda. And Disney is having to make changes to overcome the difficulty of people not buying their bullshit anymore. So, I'm about 10 minutes over. I'm going to have to wrap it up there. Thanks for watching. Tomorrow's Thanksgiving. I hope you've all got good plans. We love you, and we will see you in the morning.